Hello and welcome back to Football League World TV. We've got the debate show this morning where we're going to be discussing whether or not Paul Warne will get Rotherham United promoted back into the Sky Bet Championship this season. Joining me is Marcus and Toby. Marcus, how are you getting on?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Alfie. I think Rotherham one of the standout sides in covering the Football League so far this season, so delighted to be able to talk about them in this show.
Absolutely. Toby, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. As Marcus says, Rotherham have been brilliant this season, so it's going to be really interesting to have a proper good delve into how they're doing right now.
Absolutely. Anybody joining us on YouTube, get in the comments and let us know your thoughts on Paul Warne at Rotherham, and remember to like the video. We're going to get straight into it now. So we're going to get stuck into last night's result, really. I think that's the best way to start the show. 2-0 win for Rotherham at Ipswich. Ben Wiles and Shane Ferguson on the score sheet, which is, that 2-0 victory has now moved Rotherham to the top of the League One table. Max, I'll come to you first. A bit of a statement victory last night at Portman Road, would you say?
Definitely. Yeah, I think Ipswich are a team that could prove to be a direct rival in chasing for automatic promotion as the season progresses. And just the manner of it, how comfortable they were. They limited Ipswich to 0.29 expected goals at Portman Road. I'm not sure any side will be able to replicate that this season. And as you mentioned, Ben Wiles' goal was just outstanding. His 7th of the season, still only 22 years old, a real player on the up that Paul Warne's brought through the ranks at Rotherham really well. Paul Cook would be tearing his hair out if he had any. The way the goal came about with Wiles just a surging run through this supposedly elite Ipswich Town midfield and then smashing it into the corner of his left foot. 7 goals from your central midfielder already at this stage of the season is really impressive. It was a statement victory. I think Rotherham really announced themselves to the rest of the promotion chasers last night.
Absolutely. Toby, do you sort of echo Max's thoughts there?
Yeah, completely. I mean, I think it's worth noting as well the run that this continues with that win at Portman Road on Tuesday night. Obviously, that's now 15 unbeaten in all competitions, and it's not the first sort of statement victory, if you want to put it that way, that we've seen on that run from the Millers. Obviously, there was the absolute thrashing of Sunderland, who were going to be up there. Portsmouth for another one who got beaten by Rotherham on that run. Another side who you would be expecting to challenge for those promotion places. So this is nothing new for Rotherham to be beating those sorts of sides, and if they do continue to do that, I mean, it's a fantastic sign for them in terms of their promotion push this season.
Absolutely. We've had our first comment of the show in. If we keep the squad intact in January, we will be champions. Marcus, sort of thoughts on that? Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. They're the standout team for me. I had a little sneaky look at the odds this morning of Rotherham to win the league, and it was actually much shorter than I was expecting. They're flying at the moment. I can't pick any kind of holes in the squad that they've got at the moment. So, as I says, if they can keep it together come January, I'm sure there will be some interest. I see no other conclusion. Minimum top 2, but I probably think they will win the league. Yeah.
We are debating whether Paul Warne is going to get Rotherham United promoted this season. Get yourselves in the comments. Next up, we're going to discuss the man in the dugout. So Paul Warne's record at Rotherham in League One is pretty good. He's won promotion in 2017-18 through the playoffs with Rotherham, and of course in 2019-20 in the curtailed season. Marcus, just how good is Paul Warne as a manager at this League One level?
He's right up there. I'm not sure if a manager's ever won back-to-back promotions in League One, but Paul Warne's looking like he's on course for doing that. There's so many good managers in League One at the moment, but Paul Warne has to be right up there. He took a lot of credit last season with Rotherham. They were quite unlucky with, I think, a lot of coronavirus cases, and they ended up having a sort of backlog of fixtures that some teams around them didn't, and the squad couldn't really cope with the demands of it. Obviously, it was only I think it was an 86th minute equaliser for Cardiff, who had nothing to play for, that ended up relegating the Millers last season. So it was a tough one to take, but the way he's picked them all back up is extremely impressive. He does have 3 championship relegations on his CV. Now, how much he is to blame for that, I think, is another conversation, but that is a blemish on an otherwise outstanding managerial CV so far, just approaching 5 years in charge at Rotherham. It's his first job, so I don't think maybe we're in a position to completely assess where he is, because in different circumstances we don't know how he would fare. But it is a great fit, and I can see him managing the Millers for another 5 years more potentially.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, really, because when you think about when you make your pre-season predictions and things like that, Warne at Rotherham, it just seems like that he's going to get them in and around there. Toby, do you maybe feel that he's the best manager in League One currently in that division?
Yeah, there's definitely an argument for that. And I think what sort of makes that so strong is when you look at perhaps the resources he's got in comparison to some of the other clubs at this level. You look at the size of the infrastructure at, say, a Sunderland or a Charlton, or having come down last season with them, a Sheffield Wednesday. There's a lot of clubs in there that perhaps have bigger funds than Rotherham do. And maybe, certainly in the case of, say, Sunderland or a Portsmouth, they're much more exposed from a supporter-based perspective. Rotherham being a Yorkshire-based club, they've got a lot more teams to sort of compete with for fan backing than, say, Sunderland or a Portsmouth. So I think when you combine those two together, it sort of shows the sort of challenges that Warne is working with in comparison to some of the other teams that he's getting this Millers side to compete with. So I think that makes what he's doing hugely impressive. Yeah,
I'm just going to come back to you here, Marcus, because the next question is, do you sort of see him as a League One level manager, or do you think he's better than that? You mentioned the Championship relegations there. What are your kind of thoughts on the level that Paul Warne should be at this stage of his career?
I think he's definitely better than just a League One manager, and I think in the future that will be proven. I think at some point he is going to sustain a club in the second tier, whether it be Rotherham or someone else. We saw there's some links with the Barnsley job, ended up, of course, not happening. But I think it's a real credit to Rotherham for sticking with him, despite the relegations. You see other clubs chop and change when they end up having just disappointing results and being relegated. But to have the continuity that he's got at Rotherham, even with some of the players that have been through those disappointing times with him, has really put them in a good position this season in such a difficult League One promotion race. So no, I'm on the bandwagon. I don't think Paul Warne can be pigeonholed as a League One manager.
And we've had another comment in, this time from Harry at Rotherham. Look, the team to beat in League One. I think we've sort of touched on that already, that they do indeed look the team to beat. Toby, just your thoughts on Paul Warne, and whether he's the League One level manager or should be aiming higher with what he's done so far.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I'm sort of with Marcus on this one. I do think that he's at his glass ceiling at this moment in time in League One. I think, as we've said before, he was massively unlucky last season in the Championship with how the fixture schedule sort of affected Rotherham towards the end of the season. Had sort of games come at a more regular rate in comparison to the rest of the division, then things could have been very different. I mean, there were definitely signs there towards the end of the season before that sort of toll of so many games in such a short space of time started to take an effect, that they could have done it and stayed up. So absolutely, he could be a Championship manager with this team if things had gone in his favour last season. And as I've said before, sort of the resources that are at his disposal are perhaps not what he might get at another Championship side. So you think if he was to go to another club, and I'm not saying he will, obviously he's been a great servant to Rotherham, he's got a very strong connection there. But if he was to go to another club, then with those extra resources, it could be a different story for him in terms of what he could do in the Championship.
Absolutely. We are debating whether Paul Warne is going to get Rotherham United promoted this season. Get yourselves in the comments and let us know your thoughts. We're going to touch on a few individuals from in Warne's Rotherham squad at the minute, and I want to start with Freddie Ladapo and Michael Smith, the two attackers. They've got 17 goals combined this season, alongside 7 assists. Toby, do you feel that there's a better attacking duo in League One at the minute than those two?
As a pairing, probably not. No, I think maybe there are individuals at other clubs that might force their way into that sort of duo, but as a pairing of the two, no, I don't think so. I mean, we saw last season what both of them had the potential to do in the Championship, and I think Smith's continued that all season in League One. Now he's been an absolute menace for defences ever since the start of the campaign, and Freddie Ladapo as well in the last month or so, he's really starting to hit his top form as well. So that pairing of the two is just going to be a huge threat for defences. And I mean, I can't see how they're not going to sort of, keep firing Rotherham towards that promotion. I mean, it's impressive as well if you consider they're keeping a certain Will Grigg out of the side. Obviously, he's not always hit the heights that he has done previously, but he's still an absolute quality player at this level, and he's shown sort of when he has got the chance for Rotherham this season how good he could be in this side. But the form of Smith and Ladapo is just making it hard for him to perhaps establish himself as much as we might have expected him to, and that shows just how good those two players have been.
Yeah, there's absolutely no denying that Smith's been the more prolific of the two. He's got 12 goals this season and showcased another side of his game last night with 2 assists in the win at Ipswich. Marcus, do you think there's a little bit of a risk of Rotherham losing him come January?
I don't think they'll allow it to happen, to be honest. I think getting promoted this season would be so important, and losing such a crucial player in terms of the transfer fee that they would get wouldn't be worth it. His contract's up at the end of the season, so it's not like they'll be able to bring in huge money considering he's 30 years old as well. And I think Smith's, he's had a real journeyman career as a striker, and this is definitely the best point of it at Rotherham. He'd only scored over or hit double figures in a season once in his career before last season with Rotherham. Now he's already hit it again. We're not even halfway through the campaign, so I think it'll be wise for him to stay. Warne's definitely brought the best out of him. He's really growing into a completely different striker. I think we've seen this season, obviously dropping down a level as well. So there will be interest, but I'd be more worried about the summer transfer window with him potentially being out of contract and people sniffing around for a bargain. I think Warne will be able to persuade him to definitely stay the course of this season, and then get us promoted, and it's up to you what you do come the summer.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about the two men right at the top of the pitch here, but there's some other real standouts in the Rotherham squad. Ben Wiles, as we've mentioned already in the show, Dan Barlaser, of course, from Newcastle United, and Romani Edmonds-Green is somebody that I've been keen to sort of see how he's developed, having watched a bit of him at Huddersfield Town last season. Toby, who else stands out for you in the Rotherham squad?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth noting that this really is a strong squad all round, as we saw last night. With Ferguson and Wiles getting the goals, that proves that they're not just relying on a Smith or a Ladapo week in, week out to, make that impact that they need to get them wins. But one player for me who I'm a big fan of is Chiedozie Ogbene. The winger, he's obviously been catching the eye for Rotherham this season, and that's sort of gone on to the international stage as well. He was brilliant for the Republic of Ireland in the last international break. He scored against Luxembourg. But obviously, I think what was more eye-catching was how good he was against Portugal in that World Cup qualifier. And I think if he's doing that against the sort of quality of players that Portugal have, then it's pretty clear he's got a good chance of going a long way in the game, which Rotherham fans might not thank me for, given he's another one who's out of contract at the end of this season. But definitely, he's one who I'm a big fan of.
What about you, Marcus? Who else do you like in the squad?
I'm a big Michael Ahikwe fan. I think I'd put him in my 3 players that are too good for League One debate show we did a few weeks ago. I just think his aerial prowess is ridiculous for this level and is so effective in the style of play that Rotherham have. I think Richard Wood as well, 36 years old, still taking the armband and leading this promotion charge, deserves a lot of credit. And another player that was sort of in limbo, going between quite a lot of clubs before finding his home in Rotherham and really producing his best form in the twilight of his career. So I think those two have got to be thrown in. Ollie Rathbone has been a great summer signing coming in from Rochdale. Just incredible bit of business and goes into that midfield 3 and really complements the likes of Barlaser and Wiles, who, I think is possibly one of the best midfields in the division as well. So when you've got such good defence, we've spoken about the attack, and just the all-round squad as a whole, it is a perfect concoction for an automatic promotion push.
Absolutely. Paul Warne's got all the tools to deliver the promotion, which we are debating here whether Paul Warne is going to get Rotherham promoted back into the Championship this season. Get yourselves in the comments and let us know your thoughts. The League One table is painting a really pretty picture for Rotherham at the minute. They sit top after last night's win against Ipswich. They've got 37 points, 11 wins, 4 draws, and just 3 defeats from the opening 18 games of the season so far. Tested my maths a little bit there. We've got the joint best attack as well as the tightest defence. Now I just want to debate with you the real threats to Rotherham sort of getting promoted this season. Currently we've got Wycombe in second, Plymouth in third, Wigan in fourth, Sheffield Wednesday in fifth, and Sunderland in sixth, plus a host of clubs just outside the playoff places. Marcus, I'll come to you first. Who do you think are Rotherham's biggest threat to promotion this season?
I think you've got to throw Wigan Athletic into the mix. I'm not sure if my mental arithmetic is bang on, but just before coming on today, I did have a look at the table and I managed to work out in my head that on points per game, Wigan are still probably just top of the league, played one less than Rotherham. Obviously, came back to take a point at Cambridge United as well last night to build some momentum. They had such a busy summer transfer window, but Liam Richardson's been able to knit all these new signings together really well. And along with Rotherham, they have probably looked like one of the most consistent teams in the league. So I think maybe Ipswich Town as well. We'll see what they do in January and how they sort of come together in the second half of the season. But I think Wigan definitely, if you're looking at a potential top two, it's too early to talk about that at this stage. But in terms of contenders to win the League One title, I think Wigan are definitely the most likely to knock Rotherham off their perch.
And what about you, Toby? Obviously, there's some big hitters in League One at the minute. Who do you think are a threat to Rotherham?
Yeah, for me, the team that I'm looking at the minute is Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously, they're a bit further adrift than say a Wigan or a Plymouth or a Wycombe at the minute. But I think you look at their run of results; they've already made themselves hard to beat in the league this season. I think they're 9 unbeaten in League One now, and they've started to find out sort of ways to turn those draws into wins in the past couple of games. I mean, they hung on against Accrington at the weekend and then they struck late against MK Dons last night. I think looking at the squad they've put together a side that could probably compete in the Championship. And obviously now they've just been boosted with the return of Josh Windassey. He sort of came off the bench and marked his returning style with that stoppage time winner last night. So I just think when they're getting the results, they're hard to beat. They're turning those draws into wins. And with the squad they've got coming together, I think they're going to be one to watch going forward this season.
Yeah, I think it's time to get into the crunch time here. One-word answers. Will Paul Warne get Rotherham promoted this season? I'll come to you first, Toby.
I'll say yes if they keep hold of those players who are due to be out of contract in the summer. I think if he's got to rebuild from losing so many key players in January, I think that might be too much, but if they stay, then I can't see how they don't with what they're doing at the minute.
And what about you, Marcus?
Definitely. Yeah, easy answer for me. I've been thinking this for the last few weeks. I think that they are the standout side in the division.
Right, that's it for this morning's debate show. Toby and Marcus are both backing Paul Warne to get Rotherham United promoted back into the Championship this season. Thanks for anyone that's joined us and got in the comments. It's been great to hear from you. Coming up later today on Football League World TV, we've got the fan debate show debating Millwall's top 5 strikers, and we've got George Douglas with the Wednesday EFL preview show this afternoon. Between now and then, take care.